you're being there with us. We'll be discussing insecurity now and efforts to bring about some level of stability to affected communities in the northwestern part of the country. Joining us is a retired army officer, Retired Colonel Dauda Gora, who joins us from Kaduna. He's an elder of southern Kaduna region. Thank you so much for joining us, Colonel.
Good morning, Colonel. Can you hear us?
Colonel Gora, can you hear us?
Good morning.
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you hear us?
It's actually my delight being with you.
Thank you so much. It's interesting that we have you on the show today because, running through the news, we've seen a lot of, saddened stories, especially coming out from Kaduna. And we do know that the activities of bandits and insurgents have placed a huge financial burden on the economy of Kaduna State and as well other states. But in southern Kaduna especially, there has been an increase in the level and the number of lives lost. So many women and children have been displaced. Now, what do you think is not going right? Do you think it's a case of, a very slim relationship between the community members and the members within the security architecture, especially when it comes to intelligence? Are there enough intelligence on ground?
At the core of the problem, as far as security is concerned, in southern Kaduna, as part of the middle belt, it's clearly the absence of leadership. The people, the communities of southern Kaduna have never had any problems, either between them or with other people. But a time has come where we now have a leadership that is skewed essentially to advancing the interests of a group of persons. The way things stand now, southern Kaduna essentially is a Siberia of sorts. It is an area that must be emasculated. It is an area that must be squeezed out of existence by all means. And sadly, the institutions of government that have the responsibility of maintaining the peace simply are complicit in what is going on. It's been years now since the insecurity in southern Kaduna took a new dimension. It started essentially in 2019, immediately after the government of Madam Nasir El-Rufai was sworn into office. You will recall that Madam Nasir El-Rufai himself came out in the face of the carnage, in the face of the genocide, and I say genocide with emphasis in southern Kaduna, to assure his so-called kinsmen that one of theirs was, after all, in power. You will also recall that this same character organized to send emissaries across the West African belt to source out his kinsmen who, in his words, were elections. It is a fact that there cannot be a conflict with just one party. The two parties were involved, or more parties as it were. But this man singled out only his kinsmen to whom he paid compensation. And by so doing, he had clearly alienated himself from the people of Southern Kaduna. We have compiled enough evidence to convince the International Criminal Court that is given that the courts in Nigeria largely do not stand for justice.
Why
the migrants are there, the widows are there, the burned out dwellings are there. Essentially, we are simply being, unfortunately, victimized by governments either at the state level or at the national level. The Nigerian military or the national security architecture as a part. They have the primary responsibility of providing for the security of our people. But in the latest round of burning, in the latest rounds of death, they have clearly chosen to look the other way. While the burning, while the killing is going on, these security forces simply look the other way. And then because we are settled communities, it is always very, very easy for government or its agencies to swoop on a village, pick up whoever they want to pick and label a crime against them. Meanwhile, the gunmen, the Fulani militia, who are out occupying the open spaces out there, are walking free. Not for once have we had a situation where any of them has been prosecuted.
All right, it's still staying on intelligence. I raise this issue because I know that the Commissioner for Police in charge of Kaduna Metropolis, Sanusi Anka, mentioned about, working together with the government to bring an end to insecurity, sharing intelligence with government, and intelligence is one of the key conversations. And I was hoping to hear whether there has been any effort by the communities that have been bedeviled by this onslaught in working together with the Kaduna state government in ending the surge of banditry and the killings of persons in southern Kaduna. And if that has happened, has there been refusal to intervene?
I have problems hearing you very, very clearly. I don't know if you can come up again.
Can you hear me now? Colonel?
Yeah, I can barely hear you because you are breaking.
All right. I was.
Please try to be very specific so that I can address the issues.
Okay, I was asking, have the community members of Southern Kaduna been able to reach the government to share information on issues of banditry? Have there been some sort of collaboration? And if there has been, what has been the step so far?
To be specific, in spite of wrongs that have been inflicted, yet the traditional leadership took steps to sit with some representatives of the Fulani to try to see if they could work towards salt. But the question then was, how sure was the people they sat with are actually representatives of these gunmen who are wreaking havoc on our people? 3 times they have sat, and no sooner had they left the round table than attacks followed immediately. This tells very, very clearly that these meetings have been held with the wrong people, because the gunmen are there roaming the open spaces and wreaking havoc whenever they choose to. And elements of the security forces are always nowhere to be found until after the damage already done. The people of Southern Kaduna are a very peaceful people. Not for once have they gone out of their way to attack anybody. But serially, they have been attacked, houses have been burned, vehicles burned, people killed on their farms. Today, we are simply being caged.
All right, Colonel Gora, let me find out from you, tapping from your military experience, because you've said earlier that institutions for maintaining peace in southern Kaduna and the Middle Belt, especially southern Kaduna, have been complicit one way or the other. We heard a report from Uruguay, somewhere in Jos, at the weekend, that a commanding officer reportedly said he wasn't given authorities to intervene when certain persons came in to attack a certain community. But the GOC has come out of Operation Safe Haven, has come out to say such thing never happened. And the commanding officer or whoever said that should mention who exactly was the person that said they shouldn't intervene when armed men move into a community. But I want to ask you, as a retired military officer, is it possible for a community, you have intelligence, for instance, that a community is to be attacked, and you need to wait for an instruction before you can intervene? Is that possible? Is that part of the operational procedure in the Nigerian army, for instance?
You see, so much is gone wrong, even in the military itself. When I had the privilege of serving this nation, there were clear rules of engagement. I do not know where those rules have evaporated from. For instance, I know a soldier who is assigned to duty and given a weapon. First, that weapon is for his own defense. Secondly, that weapon enables him to perform the task. And the conditions for opening fire are very, very clear. To execute for the defense of your peaks when they are under attack, and the conditions for opening fire are very, very clear on the orders of your commander. But even so, you have the intellect to test how genuine or how legal that order is. Because if you act on an illegal order, in the end, you will be held accountable. Now, we have a situation where our soldiers, because they are simply passive, they are scared. They see a situation going wrong, they wait to be spoon-fed. I think that's not part of the army that I belonged to. Yes, but they have simply adulterated our military, and that is why things are going out of hand.
All right, but you know, when you talk about, you said so much has gone wrong in the military, clear breach of rules of engagement, and you know, it sounds like, you know, a call for help. It sounds like a sense of resignation. I feel a sense of despair coming from you, and now getting that feeling, what's the hope? Where lies the solution? Because one, you have said that the state clearly is not doing anything to enable the communities, you know, get some sort of succor from the government. So where's your call for help going to come from? Who exactly is this plea for help going to?
Well, for all that I know, while I didn't hear you very, very clearly, but I'll try to address a few issues. One, if leadership is on this nation, in the law taking its course, we have a situation here where our people are not only marginalized, they are ostracized, as it were. We do not appear to belong to the mainstream anymore. Our people simply have been left to their own devices, simply because we feel abandoned. But a time will come, I must assure, that with every event that is happening, the records are being taken. And a time will come when our people will be compelled to have to go out to defend themselves. We have all along looked upon what is left of the federal might to defend us and our communities. But that is not forthcoming. It appears obvious that there is an agenda to supplant our people from our ancestral land. Will not work. A dream. And a time comes when our people will reserve the right with all that is within their power to react. But because we are bona fide Nigerians, we will not allow those who came from the foothills of the Futajalon highlands of Guinea to come and dispossess us of our land. Essentially, history holds the records, and those records are very, very sacrosanct, to the extent that you cannot rewrite history. These guys wreaking havoc on us know exactly where they came from. Now, recall that there was one APC stalwart who came out to say clearly that the Fulani herdsmen were deliberately imported into this country in 2015 in order to influence the outcome of the election of that year. Nobody from the APC has come out to deny that.
It's
and
actually
we have
been
a
denied.
leadership that for all intents and purposes is blind. Only blind. That and it would have failed because the purpose of that is fair for the people of this nation. And in this area, it simply failed. Look at how contiguous southern Kaduna is to Abuja. But there's nothing that happens there that receives even a mention on NTA. And they call themselves National Television Authority. But for channels like yours, who occasionally will put out our case, would simply have been in the dark.
All right, Colonel Gora, still going back to the rules of engagement. Let me also get it clear, because sometimes some of these persons say, I mean, the military authorities or operations, whatever operation is taking place within a particular area or community, they say, yeah, we responded here, we couldn't respond here. Yeah. Tell me how it works. If, for instance, you have a commanding officer who is in charge of community A to protect community A from any attack, and there is an attack on community B, is he restrained from his training or from the rules of engagement from intervening in community B? Or will he have to require authority or authorization from above to move into community B, where he was actually not detailed to protect? How does it work?
First and foremost, we are not talking about communities here. We are talking about the people. And I know in the military that I used to be part of, nobody will assign you to a task without providing you the resources with which to achieve that task. Now, if, let's say, in my village, there is a section of soldiers, and the section is made up of 10 men. Tell me how those 10 soldiers can contain an attack of over 100 herdsmen. How can they do that? You see, we have a situation where the military itself is overstretched. The larger part of our military is bogged down in the northwest. And open spaces have been left to this Fulani militia, and they are acting whenever they want to act with impunity, without fear. And even I know the soldiers themselves would be scared of engaging any of these herdsmen, because when they do that, the law in the military will come hard on them. That is why I'm saying, or like I said earlier, I do not know whether the real rules of engagement have been changed. Recall, I told you that I've been 10 years in retirement and so much has changed in the military. But surely, we do not have the same military we used to have at that time. Because when I was in the military, it didn't matter where you come from. It didn't matter what faith you profess. So long as you are a Nigerian, it was the duty of the Nigerian military to defend you. Now look at what is happening in part of southern Kaduna and by extension, the Plateau. We have a divisional headquarters there. And the headquarters of Operation Safe Haven is there. But these guys, like the fire brigade, will never arrive the scene of the fire until the fire has burned out. So what is the essence of their deployment there in the first place? In fact, our people have come away with the conclusion that these people are there to protect or to enhance the capacity of this militia to execute their genocide against the southern Kaduna nation.
All right, Colonel Gora, I mean, I heard you earlier, and, you know, I get a sense of despair. We feel your anger from here. We feel your desperation, in terms of making sure and wanting things to normalize in southern Kaduna. Our heart goes out to you. However, you did say earlier that time will come when you would resort to self-help, and that the members of the southern Kaduna communities and at large will have to defend themselves. Do you think that is the solution to the problem? Wouldn't that also put the lives of the many women and children in danger? Is self-help the only alternative?
It is. When I alluded to self-help, to a recourse to self-help, it is usually a last resort. We used to have absolute belief in the capacity of the Nigerian military to defend all of us. But that is now very much called to question. Which is why I say, in the circumstance, our people will reserve the right to defend themselves, because it is a right that is given to us by God Almighty and further adumbrated by the provisions of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
But in the guise of that, I mean, before we get to that, because you said that's the last resort, what are you asking for right now? Because one, there is little faith in the government of Kaduna State. There have been mention of complicity, within the architecture of the intelligence between some community members and, of course, some of the security architecture. What are you asking for? What would you like to be done immediately besides, the last option which you mentioned?
Let me justify my labeling the government of Kaduna State, and by extension the federal government, of complicity in what is playing just a little over a week. Today, there was news of an attack in Zango Oban of Zango Kat of local government area. Before that, there have been series of attacks. People burned in homes, people killed on their farmland. But because the chosen of Zango Oban were said to have been attacked, someone called yesterday to tell me that there was a program in which the governor of Kaduna State and an entourage was going to visit Zango Zango. Now, what story does that tell you? It tells you clearly that the residents of Zango Oban are blue-blooded. They must be protected at all costs, even at the expense of our people, hundreds of whom have been killed. We are not just telling stories here. The evidence is there. It is verifiable. Go and see the burned out houses. Now, even the house of our paramount leader was burned down. The house of a retired major general burned down. But just because there was news that about 3-4 houses were burned by only God knows who, it is confirmed that the governor did not attend, but he sent his so-called commissioner for internal security and Homeland Affairs and an entourage to go see the people. Why have these people not been acting in the same manner if their community or any of these other came under attack?
All right. Colonel Gora, this is where we'll have to end it. Thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully the authorities would intervene as soon as possible to what's going on in southern Kaduna. It's been going on for quite a while, and so many people have lost their lives, so many people in captivity of bandits. But thank you so much for making time to express the situation there for us.
Thank you so much.